Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. So today we are looking at an experiment where Chelsea have been put into tier 10 of the football pyramid. Now with that, it obviously means that another team has to go up to the Premier League, which is Croydon. So we will take a look at both teams, see how they get on over the next few years, and see how quickly, if they can, Chelsea can kind of rise up the rankings, and if Croydon can stay as close to the professional level as possible. So like I say, to start with, Chelsea are in the lowest league possible. They are in tier 10, and then you've got Croydon, who I will get up now for you guys, which is in the Premier League. As you can see there, they've got all these teams to be facing, so it will be a tough one, I think, for them, but we will see. With an average wage of £141 and a semi-professional status, they could be in a bit of trouble. But what we'll do is we'll jump a season ahead. We'll take a look at kind of where they're at to start with. I think we'll know that Chelsea will likely get promoted, Croydon will likely get relegated, but what kind of players can they bring in and sell, and how that will all work. So straight away, we'll get straight into things and go a year in advance. Okay, so Chelsea look to be champions. As kind of expected, they've absolutely smashed the league. 32 wins out of 32, undefeated, 153 goal difference, 96 points in total, the maximum you could possibly get. They do look like they are playing with a few younger players. So you've got Charlie Musonda out on the left-hand side there. You've got Lewis Bate in the middle as well, with Sterling at right back. So with Cech in goal. I don't know how much that is influenced by the transfers they've made. Let's take a quick look. So obviously they've brought in loads of players. Let's see if we can do it in order of when they arrived. So you've also got these guys, Temesi, Conor O'Malley maybe, and Matthew Ryan. Matthew Ryan's come in for Chelsea, which is an interesting signing. Let's see who has left. So Morata obviously left. Abraham left for 39 million to Arsenal. Mount to Burnley. Pastelish obviously went to Atalanta. Nathan to ATM. Willy Caballero to River. And then Ekwa Alimbi out as well. And then there's a few free agents that have gone previously. That's quite an interesting turnabout. So there are a few big names that have left the club. What about Croydon? Let's have a look. We obviously were expecting them to get relegated. It looks like they have. They've come at bottom. They've drawn one game. That's, I mean, if anything, quite impressive. That they've even drawn a game with a minus 134 goal difference. So who did they draw with? They drew with Sheffield United. Kind of the only way you could expect it. Let's have a look at transfers. They have they've brought in one player. They brought in Matt Hall, a goalkeeper. And Carl Doglin, who's the only player that's actually at the team, has left. Okay, well, we'll have to see how they get on. What we'll do then, and an interesting formation as well. We'll jump a couple of seasons ahead as well again. So we'll go to 2025 this time, see where everyone has ended up so far, and we'll go forward from there. Okay, so looking at the teams then. So 2025, it looks like Chelsea have made it to the Vanarama National League North. It says it right there, North. Let's take a look at kind of the league standards there. So they have won the league, undefeated again. I'd wonder if that's that must be the pattern. I can't imagine they've ever lost a game since moving down there. It seems like Andrew has been one of their key players there. He's a player who, obviously, if you take a look at his stats in Football Manager, he obviously is a player that can do some bits, especially at the lower league. So undoubtedly, so that's certainly a star player for them. £66,000. So they're still paying a lot of money to players. They've also got Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain that I've just seen there. So they have brought in a bunch of players. It looks like quite a young team that they're playing there. Let's take a look. So we'll jump back to kind of where we were, and then we'll jump ahead. So we've got, so they've spent 124 million the next season, with Eric Bailly coming in, Harry Winks, Lorente, Solly March, Lazaro. So they've spent Davis, Decordivo Reed. So there's a bunch of players coming in, and then they sold 451 million. So maybe it was the next season where all the players were like, this is going to take ages. I'm not spending my whole career here. And that's when teams came in for him. So you got Ziyech going off to Barca for 61 million, Pulisic to Man City, and N'Golo Kante to United, Chilwell to Lazio, which is an interesting one, Hudson-Odoi, Winks, who had just come in the year before. So that's interesting. He obviously wasn't up for the challenge. Mendy as well, Zuma, Reece James, Tomori. There's loads of players. Malang Sarr, Christensen, Batshuayi, Jorginho, Bakayoko, Billy Gilmore, Loftus-Cheek, even the younger players, Ampadu, all going out and leaving the club to join pastures new, with Thiago Silva going back to Brazil as well. So they're all players that you would kind of expect to have left at that stage. So what about the season after? So they spent a little less. Oxlade-Chamberlain did come in at that point, with Tom Lockyer as well coming in, the defender from Luton. So they've kind of lowered their targets. Obviously the kind of reputation must have dropped massively at this point, to make sure that they couldn't sign those players. Kai Havertz has gone to Bayern Munich for 75 million, bringing in 190 million. So they've got a lot of money in the bag. They've obviously sold players. Timo Werner off to Man City as well. Ross Barkley's gone now. So it's more and more players have gone. It's kind of expected. They didn't bring anyone in the 23-24 season. They were obviously confident about going up without spending money. They didn't really sell many players, but I guess that's probably because they haven't got anyone left. Then finally, the season that has just gone, we've got a few players in there, but again, part exchange there for Valentino Livramento going the other way, who again could be a decent player in any career save you might have going. So they are in the Vanarama League North, which they have just got promoted, so they're in the National League now. But what about Croydon? Have they managed any better? So doesn't look too promising. Let's take a look here. So from what we can see there, they have got relegated into the National League. So in fact, they will be in the same division as Chelsea by that time. So they have done a lot better there, obviously, with things. You can't really complain about that. It's still interesting to see. They are now a professional team, spending £1,800 on player wages. I'd still have thought they'd have had more money. So maybe they have got signed a few players and spent a bit of money. So obviously didn't really buy anyone initially. Loads of players in on loan the season after in the Championship, but obviously that couldn't stop them from getting relegated. Then the season after, again, only 70k spent. They brought in a lot of players though. No real big names that I can tell there. Otherwise, selling getting rid of a couple as well. They spent 82k, so the most they've spent so far in the season after, with Josh Newfield coming in, Kevin Loco, and a few others as well. So that's the season just gone. Maybe they can perform in that is a massive squad. They've got plenty of players. They've playing a 4-1-4-1 now. Obviously being a bit more adventurous, I guess, with regards to things. Hopefully they'll be able to kind of stabilise at some point, because I hate to see them go all the way back down again. They can't, because they're a professional team now, and the amount of money they must have, they're rich. So yeah, they have to have a lot of money from being in that Premier League spot. But we'll jump again. We'll go 5 seasons again this time, see where everyone is. Have Chelsea made it to the Premier League already? Where's Croydon at? We'll take a look. Okie dokie. So Chelsea are in the Championship. Obviously, there will be a lot of players we won't know now, because we are a good 10 years into the future. So a bunch of players will have retired. But we will take a look at things. So it looks like they've been in the Championship. Is that a case that they have stalled slightly with regards to where they're at? So they're 14th in the Championship, so they haven't done amazingly. They have kind of faltered a little bit, but they obviously got promoted the season before, having gone up the 2 years prior. Let's see how they got on in the seasons before. So they did, so they smashed the league the year before, which again, we probably expected still. But they're in the middle of the table in the Championship, so they've not done too well. Have they been still spending lots of money? They're still rich, you'd expect. So they still got all those players. They're spending 70 million now on players, and again, not letting many go. They spent a lot less the year before, so they kind of fluctuate a little bit with kind of their spending. They have certainly increased it since coming into the Championship, and I mean, kind of expect it to continue to increase. Again, 34 million though a few years ago, 5 years ago now, bringing in like Lewis Dunk, Oliver and Cham as well, and Jay Da Silva from Leeds. So certainly spending the money to go up. I expect they'll probably be able to get up this season, and we'll have to see if they're able to kind of be title contenders in the Premier League if they do go up, or if it is a case that they're kind of now middle of the road. They haven't had that time to build up those teams because they've had such a long journey to get here. But let's go see and take a look at Croydon. Oh wow, so they have managed to kind of plateau a little bit. They're in League 2. They obviously they won the Vanarama National League to get in there. Let's take a look here. So obviously they got relegated. They did hold out for a season in League 2 before getting relegated again into the conference that we saw. And then in 25-26 they came 6th. So they did very well in that season. Didn't do so well the season after, but then they came back fighting 2 years later and have just got promoted back to League 2, which they're in now. Let's take a look at this season. So Chelsea, they're on 122 points, winning the league, and Croydon, they're in 6th. How did they get on against each other? Was that the 25-26 season? I don't know if we'll be able to do this and see, but it'd be interesting to see how they did against each other, considering they'd be passing effectively each other at that stage. So Chelsea lost to Croydon. That's so funny. The one there's 2 games. They did lose 2 games that season, but the one other game was against Croydon, the team that they swapped positions with in the leagues. That's interesting. I don't know why that is. But what about the other game? They obviously play each other twice, so there has to be another game against them. Am I going mad? I think I might be going mad because I can't see. Oh, there it is. That's where Chelsea won 2-0. Javier Simmons, who is now at Barnsley, and not Ben Elliott, and whoever else it was, scored the goal for them. So, Jude Soonsup-Bell. So, interesting, certainly, to say that now Chelsea are in the Championship. Maybe Croydon can come back up. They can kind of use those riches to kind of power through. Shall we take a quick look at their kind of costs, what they've spent? So they're on £5,000 a week. So they're spending a little bit of money. It's not a lot of money spent on players though. They are bringing in quite a few players, as you can see here. That's a big chunk of players, and not many going out the other end. So they're bringing in loads of players. I don't know what they're doing with them. They obviously just bring in players in. The more we bring in, the more chance they'll be good, I guess, is the idea. Reputation is 2-star now, so decent all around. So that's not bad. But we'll jump finally another 5 years, see if Chelsea can finally make it into the Premier League, and if they have been able to fight for any sort of victories and trophies. And Croydon themselves, will see if they've managed to stick around in the Football League, or if they've sunk down to the kind of non-league football once again. Okie dokie. So we're in 2035 now, with Chelsea in the Premier League once again. They have managed to make that return that they wanted. Jeff Hendrick, the manager, which is quite an interesting bit of information there. So the season after we left them, they did get promoted to from the Championship to the Premier League, and then they ended up finishing in 15th place. The season after that, again finishing in 15th, so they've managed to kind of stave off that relegation that might have occurred. Managed to go up a little bit to 13th there in the season after, and then finally finishing in 12th. So they have kind of leveled out. They are increasing. They are getting better, and getting better, and continuing to improve. It might be a case that at some stage they will be able to get to that top level. But at the moment, it is a case that they are a mediocre side in the Premier League. Not much has otherwise changed in the Premier League, really. Still a lot of the main teams up there, as you'd expect. Not surprising, really, that Brighton are up in European spots, because I seem to always have issues with Brighton whenever I play Football Manager. Bit of an interesting thing there. Jenkins looks like the only real player that's left. Let's take a look, not at the attribute analysis. Personal details. So he's 33 years old. Who I don't know really who he is. He looks okay. 180k value, £150,000 a week. I mean, I hope he's okay if he's being cost that much. So starting the career at Leeds and went out on loan a lot, then moved to Young Boys and then joined Chelsea on a free. He did quite well for them in the Championship and then came up, and obviously that's where they went forward. So interesting, definitely, to find out that they've still got some real players. But let's take a look at Croydon as well. So we know that Chelsea have managed to get in the Prem and sat in mid-table. Looks like Croydon are in League One. Interesting. So let's take a look at kind of their history and how they've got there. So we saw that they did get promoted into League 2, and they're making that steady rise again. So they've obviously, if you leave it long enough, they might even get back up into possibly the Premier League. I wouldn't know. They came 5th in League 1, so they did very well there. That money, even though they did plummet initially, has helped them to start stabilising things and kind of rising back up. So with that, is it because they've been spending money, or have they kind of got the facilities now to really perform? So they're bringing in a lot of players still. They're still not limiting themselves at all. They haven't really spent that much. 1.7 million on total in transfers, 500,000 there. So it's they're not spending a lot, but they are slowly increasing and going up the leagues. I mean, if you guys are interested, I'm certainly happy to go another few years in the future, maybe in another episode. If you're still interested, see if Croydon are able to get to the top, if Chelsea finally do start to increase as well. Maybe even both being in the Premier League at some stage and seeing how they do. But let me know in the comments if that is something that interests you. But like I say, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy and you want to see some more experiments like this, then hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll be bringing more out on the weekends coming up. Again, thank you very much for watching and have a good one. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.